to purple. Couldn't see I like the idea of having our background for the morning drip being a nice maize color, but it just makes the wall look white. So we're back to purple, just so it's something. Again, good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. It's the morning drip. Got my coffee here in my, not the WolverinesWire mug, got it in the Kylo Ren mug today. Much needed caffeine. Starting doing caffeine again for y'all because I'd quit it, but obviously the season's also a big part of it. Anyway, happy morning to you. We had there wasn't anything that was crazy that happened yesterday, that nothing on the same par of the Kirk Herbstreit stuff that we had to talk about. But there certainly are some things that we can talk about today. I think that the big thing that I really want to get into, of course, is what Vincent Gray had to say yesterday at the media availability. I'll let you watch some of it here in a moment, but what was interesting is just asking him, like I asked him a similar question to what I asked Jamon, or actually more so, I had asked Jamon what it's going to be like not just being solely in man coverage. And, he said, oh, it's going to be liberating because teams aren't going to know what we're going to be doing. They're not going to be able to just tee off on us. Vincent Gray took things a step further to some degree. But then he was also asked the last question of the entire media availability. Vincent was asked, do you think that the coaching change was a good thing? Or what do you think? To me, it was a lot of shade thrown at Don Brown, in my opinion. I know that a lot of my colleagues agreed based off of the conversations that we had immediately following. But yeah, it was certainly not what we anticipated, in that it seemed like he was ready for a defensive change and is very excited about what just came out as far as what Mike McDonald brought to the table. So check out some of the things that Vincent Gray had to say.
I feel like last year helped me a lot mentally. It helped me with my preparation for the game. It gave me a chip on my shoulder. It gave me an edge going into this year. And I just can't wait for this Saturday and the Saturdays to come. I learned a lot more about offenses. It's more than just lining up and studying the guy's release and just chasing one guy around the field. I learned a lot about route concepts, offenses schematically, formations, what are they looking for, certain down the distances, and certain areas of the field that they're targeting. Just learning how to play different positions on the field. I'm very excited to just show that I can do more than just stand in front of a guy and press him and run around with a guy. We learned a lot this offseason just conceptually, and it's going to show on Saturday. It's always good, especially playing my position, to mix it up and to give offenses a different look, so they're not just knowing what you're in and what you're doing and how you're approaching them every time. So being able to mix it up this year is going to help us a lot. I was ready for a change schematically. I feel like this is going to prepare us more for the next level. It's going to allow us to compete and make plays on the ball, which is what I enjoy. So I'm excited for it.
So I think that's incredibly interesting, and you know what? It's one of those things where if it really has had that type of impact, right? Like if he is that much more confident, and it seems like he is, and Jamon Green certainly is. If they all play a lot better, based off of the idea that they're playing in something that they feel more comfortable in. That they feel, again, we've talked about the predictability. I know that that's the again thing comes more from Locked On Wolverines than the morning dish, but we've talked about the predictability of Don Brown's defense. Now it's unpredictable. Now the players feel more comfortable. Now a guy who is like Vincent Gray is feeling like he's learning a lot more from his coaches, and he isn't the only one that talked about that. Right, because we also spoke to Chris Hinton, and he had said that these types of things also, they related more to the coaches because of their age. One of the first things that happened, if not the first thing that happened when Mike McDonald came, is he sat the entire defense down, said, here's what I want the defense to look like, and then said, Now, what do you want it to look like? Like, what do you want? So they felt like they had a little bit of more ownership. And that gives you a couple different things, right? It gives you the pride that you want out of a defense or out of any college football player, where they're not going to want to. I feel like last year we saw a lot of that kind of just going through the motions. You probably aren't going to be doing that when you have a little bit more ownership in it, but also it just creates a bond, right? That feeling of, because of the pride that you have and knowing that you're all in it together. And like Chris Hinton said, he's like, we know it's Mike Macdonald's the coach, but it's still that told us what kind of coach he is, that told us what kind of defense that we could be and what we wanted to be. I think it was a really smart move by Mike Macdonald. Last thing is, there's just a lot of culture change talk still, right? And you'd think that we'd be over that. And normally, as someone in the media, I get really tired of the same topics coming up a million times over, but I'm not really tired of this one. Obviously, the luster very well could wear off very, very soon, after a game or two. I don't want to be talking about culture change in October, let me put it that way, but normally after a couple press conferences, I'm ready to move on from that material. And I haven't been, because I feel like we're getting more and more interesting stuff about it. And we talked to, out of everyone we talked to, I think Vincent Gray was the only one we didn't actually, and maybe we did discuss the culture change. I'd have to look here. No, we did. So, but we talked about it with all four players: Eric All, Chris Hinton, Trevor Keegan, and Vincent Gray. Now, I think the interesting thing that came from that is that Trevor Keegan was talking about how, with this change that has happened inside Schembechler Hall, players that normally wouldn't consort with each other, which, keep in mind, they, just like any other big faction, 150 some guys when you think about all the walk-ons and such, a lot of times they do still break into factions, right? Things can still be cliquey, even though it's a team. You don't necessarily have cohesion from top to bottom. And now Trevor Keegan says he's like, guys that normally wouldn't talk to each other are hanging out now. Like, we're getting to build a stronger team-wide relationship. That's the kind of thing that I heard from Channing Stribling after the 2016 season, who said that the team was kind of factional before Jim Harbaugh arrived, and then Harbaugh broke up a lot of the factions. Now, sounds like some of the factions were happening again. I don't know across which lines: offense, defense, position group, other. But nonetheless, it sounds like those things are starting to coalesce once again. And I think the interesting thing is Chris Hinton said that part of it, COVID. You weren't able to just go grab a meal with the guy. And now that everyone can be back in the building, everyone can eat together. It's not a grab and go situation. They're all getting to be that much closer. That can pay some huge dividends as well, right? Because the whole idea of playing for your brother next to you, that's a little bit different than going out there and just, doing your thing. Making sure that you have some accountability beyond just yourself, that whole, I don't want to let the team down, I have to give it my all beyond that, right? Like, how much do you as a person make sure that you cross every T, dot every I when you know that someone else is counting on you for something rather than you just doing something on your own for whatever reason. So I think that's really important. The culture change thing, I think, is really important. We'll find out in a couple days how important it is. Michigan hosting Western Michigan on Saturday at noon. Anyway, that's this morning's morning dish. Okay, I'll leave you on that because that sounds weird.